So then we were driving a car, and it's a rental car because I've already crashed the car that was in my dad's name, and I can't drive anymore. And I asked him to drive this rental truck, and we're driving, and we total a car. We total 3 cars. We land on someone's front lawn. The whole side of this truck is missing. A crew cab Chevy, 17 truck is missing. Side curtain airbags are down. Dog jumps out of the side curtain airbags. We're teetering on a car. My 5-year-old and 8-month-old. My 5-year-old and 8-month-old are in the back seat.
Oh my
So
gosh.
my social acceptability really went out the window when I made the front page of the paper, the Daily Times, and the Philadelphia Inquirer. And for the first time in my life, I found myself with real consequences in that.
Welcome to Just Today, where our platform is a reminder that recovery isn't a solitary journey. It's a community of connections where our guests share their stories and the power of recovery. Just for today. Now to your host, Mike Schutte.
So welcome back to Just Today. It's good to be back in the studio. With me, I have a guest that I actually saw speaking probably 6 months ago. And while you were up there speaking, and I thought to myself, I got to get her on the podcast. You did a fantastic job. So welcome, Laura, to our show.
Thank you
Just
so
Today.
much.
Yeah. So we're just going to dive into your story a little bit. But if you could provide us a little bit of a background of where you're from, your family, your dynamics there, and then kind of we'll go right into it.
Absolutely. I grew up in Upper Darby on 69th Street, long lane, where poverty is stricken. I grew up in a loving home, My parents loved each other.
Okay.
My mom struggled with alcoholism.
Okay.
But it wasn't like you didn't know what it was. Everybody drank, right? And everybody used in the neighborhood. I was pretty sure people that didn't put something in their body every day or weren't drinking were like watching uncolored television with a kitty cat t-shirt playing a cello. Like that was my image of what anybody that did not party looked like growing up,
Right.
And I grew up with a type 1 diabetic sister that was my only sister, right? My only family member was me, my mom, and my sister. And growing up, she was bipolar. She had type 1 diabetes, kidney failure, diabetic comas in the living room. So a lot of my life was around her illness. So my parents had to focus very much on how sick she was. So I learned social acceptability real young in my early years. Like if you just do these things, they'll leave you alone. If you check these boxes of social acceptability of like going to school, but just enough, doing the grades, just enough cleaning, just enough this, just a little better than my sister.
Right.
Then, and she was getting like points for brushing her hair. So like it wasn't a high threshold, but she was really, sick both physically, mentally, emotionally, and it really made for a tumultuous home life,
Okay.
So I had a lot of activities outside of the home.
Okay.
I stayed very, very busy young. And we lived in Seacane initially before we moved to Upper Darby, and then we had a massive fire when I was in 5th grade. And we lived in Salvation Army for a little bit, and then we moved to Upper Darby where my grandmother was at on 69th Street. So that was like 4th to 5th grade, and it was a culture shock for Ridley, and I loved it.
And you loved it, huh?
I loved it. I loved the chaos. I loved I wasn't allowed in the alley behind, the kissing the boys and, playing kick the can till 11 o'clock at night. And it was a street my mother grew up on, and my grandmother was there, the Irish Catholic alcoholic down the street.
Yeah.
One of my favorite people in the entire world,
Right. Pub right down the corner.
Right.
Everybody was,
every block, you know what I mean? I was getting served in those bars
Yeah.
at 13 years old, sitting at a bar stool.
And the thing about it is we grew up with that seemed normal.
Yeah.
Right? That seemed normal that you said earlier about, just drinking was just a part of our culture, part of what we did, right?
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, there's a disease of addiction, but then there's that social setting too, right? Like when you don't know anything different, misinformed people are misinformed.
Right.
Like I had no idea that people didn't drink like that on a daily basis. I didn't have any idea that there was anything other to do than to socialize with alcohol or some type of substance or type of chaos, right? So even when it wasn't a substance in my body, it was some type of chaos, and we ran the streets and it was great, I was young, but I could substitute at that point in time. I could cut it off and I could stop.
Yeah.
But I can go back to like my alcoholism starting in like 4 or 5 years old, with like getting the cold or the flu, and my mom giving me the TV table with the brown cup in the 80s with the hot toddy, the whiskey and tea.
Yeah,
And I'd take that first sip and I'd be like, Mom, I'm going to need another one, like really young, and like I, as you go through the process of recovery and you reflect on, the hindsight of what your recovery is, right? Like you through a 12-step process, it's like, wow, wow, I've been this way my whole life. Because I always identified as an addict or an alcoholic, right? Whatever you want to call it to clarify for recovery. But like, I always identified. I just said, I'll do these things, but not these really bad things, because they'll probably make my life unmanageable.
Right.
If I just don't do the hard stuff, I'll be able to stay in the chaos of the gray area.
Yeah, and we stay in that for a while until we can't, right?
we
Like
can't.
I just was speaking to somebody about that. It's like these invisible lines that we continue to cross, right? Like I was talking about, like I would never drink in the morning. I'm drinking in the morning, like, you know what I mean? I never do this, I never do that. I'm like, I'm doing all these things, you know what I mean? So definitely gray area. So tell me, when did things for you, like, it sounds like you could manage it for quite some time. Like, was there any consequences that were happening at that time that you could see until, you kind of...
Well, yeah, I mean, but not real consequences, It's a phase. It's just Laura. She's so kind. She's so nice. She's such a good kid. My first stint in rehab, though, was 14 years old.
I was. Okay.
Yeah. So I started, my mom, obviously identifying with mental health issues in our home. Like, even though she struggled, she would stop and start and all these things. And she saw it in me early, and she wanted to put a stop to it. And I just made more connections because I had no idea what actual recovery was. I was like, oh, cool, now I can get this, this, and this because I met these people at this IOP program in Swarthmore,
Right.
And, I came out and I got a job. And I got a job at a pharmacy. We're going to slow blink to that one. It was not a great idea.
So let me back up again. So at 14, you go to your first rehab. What was the reason why, or was it because was it drinking? Was it like...
It was mainly smoking weed every day. And
smoking weed?
And using, yeah.
Okay.
And drugs, taking
right.
pills and stuff.
Okay.
But, my sister would have them, my mother would have them for their mental health. I would steal them,
Right.
very early on.
Okay.
Again, most of the crowd that I was hanging out with were a few years older than me.
Right.
I was in a higher grade than I was supposed to be. Not
Okay.
because I'm in, I tested out, but when I tested young, I tested well, and I was able to get in early. You know what I mean? So I graduated at 17. So most of my friends were a year above me, and I was just kind of moving along a little faster than most in terms of my addiction, And she saw the red flags really quick.
Right.
They knew what was happening. So with my sister's mental health issue, and my dad had minored in psychology, he worked for the Department of Defense, but we didn't have any money because of the medical bills,
Yeah.
Yeah, so they were like, tried to get ahead of it because, I think they really saw the potential in me as a human being.
Yeah.
But they kept saying, oh, everybody else around you is the problem. And I'm like, I'm the problem. I really just want your attention.
Yeah.
Like you're giving so much to my sister that, like, I think a lot of it was self-medicating to be better.
Right.
Always. Like, I always just wanted to be like everybody else, but I didn't know how to do that independently.
Right.
I only knew that by putting something in your body.
Right.
Did
you suffer from like comparison? Did you compare yourself to other people, or were you just
Oh,
felt
yeah.
less than? And okay,
I would walk
okay,
past
yeah.
houses with windows on the side and be like, what's that like? What's
Yeah.
it like to come home and always know that the Pico bill is going to be on?
Right.
Like I started waitressing like 11 years old at Bingo. I was doing adult things really young to
Right.
assist my family. So I felt adult. So I did adult like decisions in terms of using. And
Right.
it was an escape from that different type of chaos that was in my home.
Sure.
It was a loving and kind home,
Yeah.
but it had these moments of pure upheaval
right.
with the mental health.
Unstable bit.
With my mom. My dad was pretty consistent, but it was like, man, you just never knew what you were coming home to, but it was, I can't say a bad word about my parents, They really did the best with what they had. It's probably because they're gone and I've processed them as much as possible.
Yeah, right.
It's a little different when
Give
they're
them a
not
break
in your
now.
life every day,
All right, we're good.
reminding you of the chaos. But
Right,
you process things as time goes on. But yeah. So my sister ended up passing away at 32
Okay.
of a massive heart attack.
Okay. Wow.
So that's when the unmanageability became real prevalent in my life.
So how old were you when she was?
I was 24.
Okay.
At that point, I had moved out at 17,
Okay.
18 years old, because my sister had moved in. She couldn't keep the house down the street. And, the chaos of that type
So
of situation.
when you're 14, you come out of rehab.
Right.
You're like you kind of like managing things, right?
Coast.
Still coasting, still using, still all those things, and then kind of like you're managing your own life. And then you said that 24 things really started.
Yeah, so
when your
things
sister
got pretty
passed away.
crazy in high school. I did get a couple consequences. I did get caught. I went to an
Okay.
all-girl Catholic school, so they did not love drugs very much.
Okay.
And I was one of the only people that ever got caught with them in this facility.
Okay.
And I lost my early prom and I missed my early dismissal and my senior prom. That was it. It's like a
Still
slap on the wrist.
consequences, though, right?
Didn't really
Yeah.
feel like a consequence. I went to 4 other proms. Yeah. I was like, not a problem, you know?
We'll eventually get to the point where we all have like, oh boy.
Yeah, so I think consequences are a great way to reflect. Once you have those serious consequences that feel like a bottom for you, I think that's where my recovery came into. But at that point, I was like, oh, I'll just stop doing this. I just won't do this anymore.
Right.
I'll just do these. So I was able to substitute at that point in time. So I had stopped for a little bit and, did just enough and went to Delaware County right after high school.
Okay.
And I'm a just enough person. Like just enough to
enough.
keep you off my back, just enough school. And I started working at a car dealership, and that's kind of where my professional career started in the automotive industry.
Okay. Well, so when did tell me a little bit where those consequences came in and the kind of your darker days where
Oh,
you're
sure.
because eventually, like I said, we all get to that place.
Oh,
right?
absolutely.
So tell me a little bit about that.
Sure. So I buy the house, I have the car, I have the fiance, I have the life, but he's not one of us,
Okay.
So there would be the moments where he would want to go home at 3 a.m. So I would be laying in the bed waiting for him to fall asleep to go get the next one, which is probably crazy. So I blew my life up, that first time, and then I started, bartending full time. So you shouldn't be a finance manager at a car dealership. That's just that's getting in the way. We're gonna bartend full time because that makes complete sense. That's what my disease told me, and it was a great idea. And that's when my sister passed away at that
Okay.
point in time. So she had lived next door to my mom and dad in a row home on Upper
Okay.
Darby, and she had a massive heart attack with her children in the home, all 4 children. The father was out using. So the kids go next door to my mom and dad's, and I remember pulling up. It was October 5th. It was a friend of mine's baby shower I was supposed to, and they're sitting on the steps, and I'm like, I got you. I will take care of you. You know what I mean? My ego was ginormous. Not only am I 24, but I'm also an addict, right? So my parents take them in, and I'm assisting, and then my mom has brain surgery, and my dad gets cancer all within a year. So, I'm a person that will take the weight of the world on,
Yeah.
because I feel like I have to. It's an obligation, and I was like, oh, I'm going to adopt these kids. Look at me. I'm amazing. I'm going to, and the guy at the bars. So now I have that. I get the house, but I have no money in the bank, right? I got a full seller's assist, but I can get stuff done. You know what I mean? We're clever,
Yeah.
And I get the house, and I get the kids, and I get the custody, and I get the adoptions. And, the 3 youngest are living with me, and my oldest nephew, I don't know if he saw the writing on the wall, but he made the decision to go another place. But then while I'm in there, I meet a guy at the bar, the guy who spends his whole paycheck and hangs out there every day. He comes to a party, and I have a child with him. 4 months into the relationship, we're like, oh, we should live together.
Good times.
Let's have a baby. This is going to be amazing. This is the best decision we've ever made. And, and I'm trying to be the best mom that I can, but I can't stop. You know?
Yeah.
And the thing about the disease of addiction is it's stronger than Mother Nature.
Yeah.
The same Mother Nature that will have a mother picking a car off of a baby. Right. When you have this disease, you'll step over that baby for the next one. Yeah. Not because you don't love them, because it is so insidious and cruel and wants me dead and alone and isolated. And it goes against everything that is embedded as you as a mother, and it's so tumultuous. And so I have this child, and now I have these kids, and they have mental health issues, and it's chaos, right? He's got his own issues that we were unaware. 4 months, you don't really know. Now through pregnancy, you realize this is a different person. And so anyway, so then we get into the throes of addiction a little bit more. So I have another baby because that makes sense. And at the end of that is really when the disease kicks in, and the consequences. Child use services. That wasn't enough. IOP. I meet a guy because that's where you should meet people. IOP. It makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then we're driving a car, and it's a rental car because I've already crashed the car that was in my dad's name, and I can't drive anymore. And I asked him to drive this rental truck, and we're driving, and we total a car. We total 3 cars. We land on someone's front lawn. The whole side of this truck is missing. A crew cab Chevy, 17 truck is missing. Side curtain airbags are down. Dog jumps out of the side curtain airbags. We're teetering on a car. My 5-year-old and 8-month-old. My 5-year-old and 8-month-old are in the back seat.
Oh my
So my social acceptability really went out the window when I made the front page of the paper, the Daily Times, and the Philadelphia Inquirer. And for the first time in my life, I found myself with real consequences. In that time of being in jail for 90 days in rehab, I lost my house, I lost my sister's children, I lost my children. I had no job, I had no relationships. My father didn't answer the phone because he was dying of cancer. My mother was already deceased. She died a few months after my daughter was born. And I was left alone in jail. And, I came to a couple days later and looked around the room in jail, and I was like, man, if you took all the addicts out of this place, there'd be like 3 crazy people. It's just a bunch of people making the same decisions over and over again and ended up in the same, with the same results.
Right.
Back in prison,
Yeah.
And that is where the recovery journey began. And that was July 2017.
That must have been, I know I have those kind of feelings when everything is taken away from you, right? And you're at that place where you're by yourself, right? And it's like decision time. Like, okay, what am I going to do now, right?
Yeah.
Everything's gone from me, right? And so tell me how. Now you weren't driving, but your boyfriend was driving the car, right?
Yeah, we'll call him that.
Okay.
Sure. The guy I met in IOP, we'll call him that. He's not a bad guy. It's just, it was like, oh, we're not going to use together,
Right.
And you end up right back where you
Right.
started.
Okay.
So I come out of there. I go to rehab, and I do all the things that I think I'm supposed to do.
Where did you go to rehab?
Bowling Green.
Oh,
I went there twice.
Oh, okay.
Fun fact, I met my husband there.
I spoke there. I didn't go there. Probably the one place I didn't go, but I do know that facility.
Yeah, it was.
That's a tough facility.
It was nicer back then. It was way
Okay.
different. I've been there
Okay.
recently to speak, and it wasn't like segregated as it is now with the men and the women, and it was much more like volleyball, and with
Okay.
this wonderful vision. Anything was better than George W. Hill, So coming out of jail, I was like, oh my gosh, jelly toast! This is amazing. This rehab's fantastic.
Right.
So like when I came out of there, I had a court-appointed attorney, and she had offered me treatment court.
Okay.
And she said, I think that you can do it. And I said, I'm high in jail. I'm like, there's just no way. I don't know how it's possible. But she had believed in me, and she had given me that one mustard seed, that one grain of sand, that thing. Like, it's possible. I believe that you can do this. You have this tenacity in you that I think you can. And I couldn't even sit up straight, And I'm like, okay, lady. So then, I went to rehab, and I came out, and I didn't stop using. I just... I wanted to do all the things that I hadn't done. There was a few drugs I haven't checked out, and
Right.
it's crazy what this disease does to us. And eventually, I signed on to drug court in Delaware County, and I remember signing on, and the judge was like, "You're a risk. You're 35 years old. I don't think there's anything you haven't done." And there's more things out now that were not available at that point in time, but he was like, "I don't think you can do it." And I think that first year was out of spite. Like, tell me I can't. I'll show you I can,
Right, yeah.
And I said, I don't think I can either. I'm high right now. And that was January 28th, 2018. Or January 27th. So my clean date is January 28th, 2018. We just celebrated 8 years.
Wow, that's
this week.
fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah, pretty amazing.
Wow, what a story, huh?
I know. And, I just was like, I'll just do this until they, I'll just use when I get out. It didn't seem like a plausible thing,
Right. Did you, when you're going through that drug court and you're like, okay, are you going to any other meetings for support meetings? I mean, there's a lot of different support meetings out there. Where did you find your support?
So I started off going to both fellowships, or the fellowships that were available. And, I landed on one, and I kind of stayed there, and I got a sponsor, and I worked the steps. And, they made you do 90 and 90 in drug court. They made you go to the meetings. You had to go to IOP. You were supposed to live in a recovery house, but they did allow me to live with my father in Upper Darby because he had cancer,
Okay.
which was a gift. Because
you were there,
I
right.
got to take care of him while,
And you were
while he had
and you
cancer.
were-
I was
you know,
clean, I was
you were
sober and
clean,
clean,
right.
and able to take him to his appointments. And there was multiple times they would turn and be like, "You saved my life,"
Right, yeah.
So my recovery, you had IOP and you had these programs, and like I'm trying to get my children back, and I'm allowed to see them at 2 hours at a time at night. So I'm doing that. Like occasionally, they're at the father of my children's mother's house, and whenever she would let me see them, and it was hard. It was really hard to like not be all the things, right? Like to slow down and like learn how to be a mother, and like she really taught me how to do that, and like I had to be quiet.
Yeah,
so there was a lot of processes that happened within the drug court program.
Oh, I'm sure. What were you doing to support yourself, like financially?
I was waitressing at Lenark Diner.
Okay.
So I got the job there because they did not serve any alcohol. And across the street was a Santander Bank, which is my bank. And when I finished my shift, I would walk across the street and I would deposit my money. And it became like 6 or 7 months. It was a room in Chester for $500 or an apartment in Sharon Hill for $800, right?
Right.
And, we have to make decisions in this program. We have to change the things that we've done. So I quit smoking and I quit going to Wawa. And I ditched the purse and I carried a lunch bag.
Yeah.
And I don't go to Wawa to this day.
No.
We went yesterday, and I was like, $27 for mac and cheese. This is wild, because I just don't. I work too hard for my money. I'm not throwing it away.
Right.
I refuse to give my money for convenience. I'd rather put the work in and enjoy
That's
the
cool.
fruits of my labor, if you would say.
Yeah. I remember you shared that one time.
Yeah,
I was like, wow, look at you.
I had to get my
put down
kids
the
back.
cigarettes and make real sacrifice and like stop going to Wawa.
Yeah,
So
the
it's
sacrifice
been-
was 70 pounds. I think I gained. I was like eating tacos and Wendy's and like in the line of Burger King, like eating a taco, like just give me the burger,
Right.
Because I didn't know what else to do. I didn't know what to do without using. The only thing I did other than that was occasionally eat, throughout the addiction.
Right,
And so all I did was eat. And I didn't have the kids, and like it was a gift, right?
Right.
I didn't stop doing all the things. I didn't stop like stealing, and I didn't stop the behaviors right away. And then my daughter was 18 months old and living with her, sharing some custody. I was allowed to get her at some points in time,
Okay. overnights
and stuff. His mother was like really supportive in terms of my recovery, and still is today.
Right.
And she fractured her femur at her grandmother's house. My 18-month-old was in a half body cast. So I was going to IOP with this. She was like, I can't, she's, older. So she's like, I can't take care of her. So I took her for 6 weeks by myself in recovery, 8 months, this baby in this half body cast that can't walk around,
And people are like looking at it like, what happened?
I'm dragging this baby to drug court in a wagon, wagons, meetings, IOP, drug court. She was coming everywhere with me. I was soaking in like Epsom salt baths because she was so heavy, and what a gift, right? And I remember going to like Walmart, and like I just didn't want to pay for chicken because like that's what I do, we're addicts. I'm like, I just don't feel like paying for this chicken breast, and I rung up anyway by accident, and I was like, so resentful to Walmart for making me pay for the food I was getting. And I'm walking out, and the guy highlights the chicken breast, and I got like almost a year at this point. It's 11 months. That was the last time I stole.
Right.
I was like, if I would have got arrested on the way to go pick my daughter up in this half body cast because I didn't want to pay for chicken breast.
Yeah,
That is
crazy,
not
isn't it?
spiritual principles in all of my affairs, right?
No.
And I've learned, like, if I don't put spiritual principles in all of my affairs, I need to change my affairs because I'm not living right.
Yeah.
So stealing chicken breast from Walmart is off the...
Yeah.
Oh, apparently that's like, no bueno.
Right.
But it's just these habits that we slowly start getting better 1% at a time. Just a little grain of sand each day
Yeah.
to, like, add up, over the period of time.
Yeah, I agree 100%. It's living in that honesty, right?
Yeah.
Like for me, it was honesty in all of my affairs. Like I was like, it's a very slippery slope for us, right? For when I do something that's even slightly disagreeable to me and my principles, it festers and it builds up. And if I continue to do the same shit, I want to escape from them, right? So it's like, it's really, it's a great way of living that way. It's like, just live honesty, tell the truth, do the right thing. Not that hard, right?
Yeah, and that's like the we program of it, right? Like, so when you
Yeah.
have people in your life that like will tell you about yourself.
Yeah, call you on your shit.
People don't call me if they don't want to hear about
Yeah.
themselves. I'm like, oh, you're struggling? Why don't you
Yeah.
call me more? They're like, I don't want to hear about it because you're
Yeah.
going to give me a solution, and I'm not solution based right now.
Right,
I'm like,
right.
come to my house, and they're like, you're just too happy, like you're like living it, and I just want to live in my misery, and I'm like, that's not how it works, right?
Yeah.
Like I want my husband and I like. Sometimes we're like too much, we like call each other out constantly, but that's what it is, right? Like our relationship is built off of recovery first. So it's like, somebody to keep me honest when I don't even realize that I'm not being honest, and vice versa. It's not like he makes me additionally happy, but he makes me the best version of myself.
Yeah, that's really, really cool.
It's crazy,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
most of the time I disagree with him, like all the time, I'm
Yeah.
like, nah, I wouldn't do it that way. But like, it also teaches me that humility piece. Like, I don't have to tell him how to live his life. I don't have to, I can say, hey, listen, I don't like that you did this, and I'm going to disconnect from it
Right.
because I don't like this, and I
Right,
can say
right.
my healthy boundaries in this relationship, and like, that's what makes it healthy. And
Right.
it's just because we're constantly working on ourselves
Yeah.
in our own capacity that we can come together in like that healthy relationship way. And I think, surrounding yourself with people, because sometimes we can't always see, right? This disease, like my lower power and my higher power are the same voice. And if I keep that channel connected with my higher power, then I hear that one. But if I start nurturing that, putting some nurturing into that lower power, it's going to sound the same. And it's going to sound like a great decision.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be like, yeah, I'm going to flatten them tires because that's a great idea, I don't live like that today, but like, your tires flat when you get out of here. It wasn't me.
Yeah.
But, these are the way the disease talks to us. So it's like if I'm not staying connected every day, like it's every day I wake up and just for today always is literally on my arm, And like there was a hashtag at my wedding, and it was my husband and I got it at 4 months, and I'm like, what if we break up? We were dating, And he's like, I'll go to the circus if we break up. And I'm like, I love the circus. Let's go. But like, it was like just for today, always. Like,
Yeah.
That's how we live our relationship. Like, I love you just for today. Like, just for today. Because in the beginning, we couldn't commit to this crazy, like, relationship thing, right? Like, we wanted it to be healthy. And he's like, I love you just for today. And I was like, oh, what am I? Don't you know who I am?
Well, I think a lot of like the company that I have just today is really focusing on there's the 24 hours, right? We
Right.
all get, and it's bigger than there's so many things about that, and I certainly that's how I live, like because I have probably like you is I'm always forward thinking. Like I'm like it drives me nuts at times. I'm always like, all right, my mind goes crazy, right? And then I'm like, yo, chill out, man. It's like anything in my life, and I have to recenter myself at least 3 or 4 times a day to be like, all right, man. Just chill. You can't do anything tomorrow. Just work on today.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I certainly understand that.
Yeah,
So,
and we plan for the future, but we have
well,
to
I
be ready to
understand.
pivot, It's
Yeah,
very
no,
important.
I understand that, but it must be really cool. It must be really grateful to have your husband and that's with you, and that you're in that same journey together. 'Cause
Yeah, our
seeing-
biggest fights are like commitments, I'm like, oh, I gotta speak here, and I gotta speak here, and like
Yeah,
he was doing
yeah,
something, he's a
yeah.
sponsee at the house, and the kids are there, and like
Right.
that's the biggest thing because between the two of us, he has 4 children, and I have 3
Right.
too, so we're like at 6, and adopted children, my sister's 3 kids, and my niece I talk to every day because she's raising children,
that's
so
cool.
like.
But you guys are just like
But yeah, but
so
it's like
connected on it.
Oh yeah, and like I have my
yeah.
10th step by the toothbrush, so I open the door and I tell him all the resentments I have about him for the day, every day. Every time I leave the bathroom, you know what you did today? I didn't like, but it just keeps it very honest, and like that's the
Yeah.
thing, right? Like I can accept him for who he is. I don't need to change him, but I do see that he wants to be better every day.
Right.
It started like I was in the hospital at like 40 years old in recovery a couple years. It's COVID season, and I've been to the hospital a few times and I didn't know what was wrong with me, and I have necrosis. My kidneys are actually pretty close to completely dead, but like I do pretty well, and I changed my diet and I ate and went organic and did all these things on this health journey that I began at that point in time. And I remember calling him, and we had just started dating for like 5-6 months, and he was only had the company car, and I said, you should come visit me. And he's in Delco, and I'm in Chester County at Paoli Hospital, and he's like, I can't. I said, what? He said, I have a company car, and I'm not allowed to drive it on personal time. I was like, that's so hot.
That's so hot.
I was like, it's so often we
yeah.
do what we want to do. And, he had to sit it took him a minute. And of course I was like, you don't want to see me? And then I was like, you know what? How great is that?
Yeah.
That he wants to do what's right. And like, that's how I live my life. How can I be mad that he wants to live his life that way? And like, it wasn't, and he was like, he didn't go out the next day and buy a truck so he could come see me. He was like, it doesn't make sense to go buy a car right now. It makes sense for me to move out of this recovery house. And it makes sense for me to do this. And I was like, you can't live with me. Like, you don't live here. I worked for this house. You know, you need to get your own place first before you could even
Wow.
you could consider living together.
Wow,
Because that had happened to me, and dating people, and then all of a sudden you're like Monday, and you're like, you don't live in my house. You live with your mother on the
Yeah.
couch. Go back, because I worked really, really hard to be where I was, and like, I don't want to take that away from anybody in recovery. That journey has made me
Yeah.
a better mother, a better employee, a better person, better financially.
Yeah. I think that that's really cool what you said. I remember my journey like that. There was a lot of times, a lot of alone time that I really needed, and because I used to, I guess surround yourself with family and friends, and that or lifting you up, and sometimes you need to kind of go through that journey by yourself and learn to just be still with that, and that took me a long time. So maybe it's something that.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think God removed a lot of people from my life, not in a negative way. Like, they were let go with love. My mother was deceased, my sister was deceased, my father was dying of cancer. He did die of cancer.
Right,
I got to take care of him. I
I
got to
know.
bury him. I
Right.
got to pay for a tombstone with my mom, my dad, and my sister's names, and it didn't go to the disease of addiction.
Yeah.
And it removed that, so I had the ability. And I remember, people saying stay clean and staying out of a relationship for a year. But I gotten really fat. I had cystic acne. There was a lot of reasons. Drug court made you do like a family session if you wanted to date anybody. And I was looking around the rooms, and I'm like, there is nobody I'm bringing into a family session with this judge. Get out of here. And I remember looking up at a year and being like, who am I dating? And I said to my sponsor, I said, I don't see anybody that I want to date. She says, there's no rule that says you have to start dating at a year. And she said, well, why don't you put that energy into your children? So I dated my kids for 6 months.
See, that's awesome.
So every time I needed validation or wanted to I needed that, right? Like,
Right.
I'm not completely ego driven. I would post a selfie on Facebook and let people say, like, you look beautiful, and that was enough for me. And then I focus all my attention on my children, because we do need support and we do need people to lift us up. But I didn't have any family.
Yeah.
My whole family was deceased.
Yeah.
And my sister's kids were not that they were, they were older, and my niece talked to me, but the boys didn't. There was this disconnect, right? And the only thing I had was my children, and the father of my children's family was very supportive, but I had to build my own life. And it was the best place to be, that gift of desperation.
Oh, I know
and that
it
is
so
why.
well.
I know. Without the desperation,
yeah,
right? And
yeah.
that's why it's more of a scary road when you're at years clean, right? You get 8 years and you have a house and you have rent and you have mortgage and the gymnastics and this and that, and it's really easy to put stuff in front of your recovery, and that's why I'm so in service.
Yeah.
We're on the advisory board together, right? I had prayed to do more, and Jamie had approached me about that, and then I go to the Chester County Prison every Wednesday night. That is one of my commitments, hospitals and institutions. I was chair, for an organization around here. And, my husband does he did his, and he's in this, inside of his fellowship, and, higher levels of service, and sponsoring women, at the moment, it's 10 women, that I talk to on almost a daily basis. Most of the 4 of which are done their steps and going through and helping other people and working on their second rounds. And
to keep it, you got to give it away, right?
I got to give it away. I got to go in these places and remember how hard it was to get started, and also it teaches my children that failure is a part of success, right? My daughter put her hand up when we moved to Chester County, and the teacher was like, hey, what does everybody want to get out of 4th grade? And she went last, and she said, I think it's wonderful. All these kids want to get all this stuff out of 4th grade, but failure is a part of success. And this teacher was in awe of this 9-year-old little girl, and it was because she saw this journey, right? The journey from insanity to acceptance in my life, right? The story of your life, but in my daughter's eyes of watching her mother, not seeing before 11 a.m. on a daily basis, to now my 13-year-old daughter is up at 5:30 in the morning taking showers, and her bedtime's 8:30. Yeah. I don't make her go to bed. She's like, I'm going to bed. Nobody keep me up, because she sees the difference in, when we learn to make mistakes throughout life and then pivot back, and she gets to grow in that. My children get to grow with this recovery mindset as
as number
gift,
one thing in our lives, right? And our recovery. I mean, like I said, I just did this podcast, and I was like, the whole thing about it is probably like you is I was always dipping my toe in and out of things, and then in my recovery these days, it's just I'm so in the middle of it all the time doing, I mean, like, it can be nuts at times for my other people in my life that have to see this because they're like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, recovery is my life, and it's a wonderful life. It really is. It's really cool about giving back and getting involved and meeting new people, just like these new connections we have. And you just got like accepted to the Chester County Board and Alcohol Commission, and you and I were kind of on the same journey there. We're kind of looking at each other like, "Hey, look at us! look at us now!" Huh?
Are they sure they let us
We're on the
here?
board. What?
I was like, did they really read anything?
Yeah,
I
still walk
check?
in. I'm like,
I'm like, do I fit in? What do I bring to the table, right?
Yeah, that's the
because-
thing. But you've done a lot of work there already. You're doing some promotional videos for Chester County, and I'm always like trying to do something else. I'm trying to educate people on all the different services that are out there, because in Chester County, I think we're in our whole area, people just don't know, right, of where to go when they have questions or they need help, and there's all these services out there. And it's crazy because I didn't know either. Like when I was going through mine, I picked up some. I didn't even know that all these services that are there for people. It's pretty powerful stuff.
Oh yeah, the pivot from like, being just in recovery for yourself to being in recovery for other people, and then taking that to just not the sick and suffering, right? But to the families of the sick and suffering and the other people that they talk about, is like, it's transition, right? But it's like part of the journey, I think. Like at first it's always like, what can they do for me? And then it's like, what can I do for everybody else? And that's what pivots in the recovery to keep us this, with this grace and this sanity and like in serenity at some points in time. And I was like, maybe I should start a recovery house, and maybe I should do this, and maybe I should do that, and maybe I will, I don't really know, but I kind of just allow my higher power to guide me through my life and like, keep it with the next right thing. So Jimmy's like, well, I'd shared. And
that's our forward thinking.
Yeah.
I thought the same. I'm like,
I'm like writing a book. I got this going on. My toes and I'm always been good intentions. Like, right. I adopted my sister's kids, all ego, but it was good intentions. I was just 24. I was ill-equipped, and I thought I could do it better than everybody else. And, my intentions are always really good to do really good things, but my follow-through is always so horrible, That's why I married Josh as well. It's like his follow-through. He's like, did you do it? Did you get it done? Did you do this? He's very consistent, and I'm like, oh, no, I don't want to. But, like, a lot of my time is spent in recovery, and, like this weekend, I had 4 commitments this weekend. It was been a busy weekend, One was at past midnight last night speaking, and
I see you and I'm like, I'm not doing enough.
people say that to me, and like people be like,
what
"Oh,
am
you're
I
so
doing
busy,"
today?
and I'm like, you know what? I schedule it because I do schedule time for myself, and I do have my self care, and I wake up at 5 a.m. to give myself that time. And you learn the balance, and I do say no when I need to say no, because sometimes I need to just restart, because I do have my own mental health that I have to be concerned about, and that's part of my journey as well.
Sure.
You know?
Taking care of yourself.
Oh yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, it's arrested bipolar for me, my parents, but like that's part, when I got healthy with the kidneys, it arrested, on a more natural type of, progress of the mental health. And, if I give too much, I'm not filling my own cup, I have to fill my own cup first. I have to make sure that I have something to give. I can't be giving from an empty cup, because then I'm just giving nothing, to nothing. And it's just an ever-ending cycle. And sometimes I'm just like, not today, Very rarely, I feel like. Because, then it's like the opposite side of it. Like, I give so much to recovery, and then I get to come home and I have these children that are just, and my stepdaughter, and she's like with us, all the time. And I love her like my own, and she had lost her mother to this disease, and her father, and now has her father, and I get to be her mother. I get to be that version for her. I get to, her grandmother raised her and was loving and kind and all these things, but it's different when you have like the mom and dad together, and you have that, and you have the sisters there, and you're doing the things and the sleepovers and the getting in trouble for ripping stuff
She's
apart in the bathroom.
And not on the outside of it.
It's crazy that I love her as much as I love my own children. I said to her when, the transition was happening, I was like, I can't wait for the day you say you hate me and slam the door in my face. She was like, you are so weird. And I was like, because that means that you're so safe here, that you feel like you can say that to me. And I was like, you know what my response would be? She goes, it was like a tough day for her, I was like, I'll love you enough for both of us until you feel better, because like that's how I live my life today. It's about the other person at all times. And, it just makes my life infinitely better because I always wanted to be part of helping people and kind and these things. But I was like making cupcakes for birthday parties and not like really being in service,
Yeah.
And it's crazy the journey that happens when you just allow, your higher power to dictate your life as opposed to always trying to fix, manage, and control everything, man. It's like, it's not my fault. If it's great, it's not my fault. And if it's, horrible, it's not my fault either. Like, it's my higher power, or it's God. It's God in my life that decided that I'm supposed to be suffering right now. But you do learn on the journey, right? Like, when things are hard and dark, that's when we grow, right? When things are sunny and bright and beautiful and life is going smoothly, like we're not growing, right? But when they're hard and they're dark and we get through, like we grow, and we come out the other side and we don't take the way around. And like, there's only two ways to grow, right? Like hitting a wall or intentional growth, and my only way of growing was hitting a wall and still not seeing it over and over again. And now it's like, oh wait, this is probably not working, and I intentional growth. I don't even just intentional growth in my recovery. I do it within my company and my organization because I recover loudly, so others don't die quietly. Not only in my public life, but also in my corporate job that I have. I work for Progressive Insurance, and I'm very lucky to be inside of a culture that allows me to be my authentic self at all times.
That's cool.
It's wonderful. And it's fitting, right? Like I had transitioned there a couple of years ago just because I liked they have these core values, integrity and, the golden rule and like these things that are important to me. Like in there, it's a stressful job. And sometimes it's hard to see them in the moments that are difficult, but like at the core of their values is the same as mine. And like to have, take a pay cut and take a step back and like not be all the things, right? It's a beautiful gift, and now, things are coming along more in my journey there, because I've been there for a couple of years, but it's nice to be, yourself all the time. It's nice to even just know who I am. My whole life has been chameleon within. Oh, what do you want me to be? Yeah. I'll be that guy. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. I'll be the crazy girl. I'll be the goth girl. I'll be the girl who loves paintings. I'll be this. And like, I am a lot of those things, but I wasn't doing it because it felt real to me. I did it because it felt like you needed me to be that.
Yeah. Living in borrowed skin.
Yeah.
Like we're borrowing sin.
Wild, right?
Crazy.
I know. Exhausting is what it is.
It is exhausting. So.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you coming in.
Thank you so much.
You did a great job. Thanks so much for sharing.
Can I share
your
one
story.
small thing?
Yes, of course you can.
All right. So this is one of the things that I heard early in my recovery that has resonated with me and kind of the thing that I live by through in my life, right? So I had gone to a meeting and the woman was sharing and, she was sharing how she had absolutely nothing in her life and what was the point of even doing it. And she had asked, her sponsor in the program, what should I do? And she said, well, what's one small thing? And she said, the chance of seeing my children again. And I could resonate with that. And she said, that's your grain of sand. She said, tomorrow, don't look for leaps and bounds. Look for one more grain of sand. She said, with 3 years, I had a vase. With 7 years, I had a beach. And I've learned in this program when we celebrated 7 years last year that, like, I don't ever want to sit on a beach by myself. So the more I give away, the more I get. So really, like, thank you so much for allowing me to share my grain of sand today to help others maybe find their way to that sunset, and have a beautiful life. So thank you so much.
That's awesome. That's really cool.
It was pretty cool, right?
That was
It's
great.
crazy how you resonate.
Yeah,
I remember that one moment, but I can't remember any passwords,
That's going to be a clip. So I'll see you tomorrow night at the meeting, right?
I will be there.
Yeah, I'll be there tomorrow night.
And I'll be there for orientation a little bit early, too. So it's really exciting, It's
Sounds
very cool.
Good. Yeah. Well, thanks again for coming.
Thanks for having me. It was a pleasure.
Yeah.